it's me, Sean Capri. I'm glad you're here because you're listening to the most horsepowerful podcast on the internet. It's the Xbox Drive. I'm on a Skype call with my friend Ryan Turford. He's the man on the moose, and on our journey today, CyberPunk got a surprise drop for that new Series X thing that we should talk about, and I'm feeling kind of weird about it, so jump on into the Xbox Drive. Bonk!
Greater than X.
Hello, Sean Capri.
I'm not doing that takeover again, Ryan. That's one and done. That was close enough, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I switched the camera off of you, Sean. So I mean, we can't go back. We don't go back.
Can't
here
go back.
At the Xbox Drive.
Nope.
Not going to happen.
Because sharks don't ever look back, Ryan. Because they don't have.
Is that
necks.
an actual fact? Is that something that sharks actually do, Sean? I don't know
Sharks
enough
don't
about
look
sharks.
back. I don't know. I think I got it from Futurama. There's the early one for you, Court Lalonde.
I mean, that's from a TV show, and I just don't understand references from TV shows.
Exactly.
Anyways, this is the Xbox Drive. We talk about Xbox all the time, except for right now. So, folks at home, if you want to support the show, there's a number of awesome ways to do so. Number one, you can subscribe to us on your podcast feed of choice. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. We're all of the places you find podcasts, so check us out there. Also, leave us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or maybe even leave us an Apple Podcast review. All that stuff definitely helps the show gets discovered and helps us out as well. Also, if you want to see our beautiful faces every week, head over to YouTube, youtube.com/YumiCapri. Of course, like, comment, subscribe, share, ding, 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 ring that bell. I'm doing this, pointing with my finger, because we want people to ring the bell. That's what.
Yeah, don't be shy. It's not like when you go up to like a secretary's desk and you're like, you need to ring the bell, and you kind of do it gently because you don't want to be annoying, but like then it doesn't really work. Like smash that bell. That's why they say it.
The nice thing about the YouTube bell, Sean,
loud.
is once you ring it once, it works every time. You don't have to, it's not
Just
like a
keeps ringing.
malfunctioning bell.
That's right.
Of course, last but not least, if you want early access to this and all of our shows, head over to Patreon, patreon.com/YumiCapri. You get early access to this and all of our other content, so go check us out over there. All right, let's grab our 8 tracks, pop them in. It is time for the playlist. Let's jump right into the show.
No, hang on. We're not skipping this, right?
No.
Patreon.com/YumiCapri. I need to ask you about this.
What'd I do?
A while ago, I had promised that if we got up over 69 patrons, that I would draw a picture of Ryan Turford riding a moose. And I promised people last week that I was getting to it. So I think it was Friday night, sat down, grabbed my pencils, grabbed my art book, and I drew a little something, Ryan. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Have you seen this?
I've heard about this. I've seen some rumblings in the Discord, Sean.
Yep. I certainly found a picture of, because I can't really draw. I can just draw things of other things that I find. I'm not creative enough to actually do like a portrait of you, of course. But shout out to Zero Skill, who did, by the way. People should check it out in the Discord. Free to join, of course. You don't have to be a patron to join the Discord. Links in the show notes. I found a picture of Bullwinkle, who is a moose, lying down, kind of just almost suggestively, and then I drew Ryan Turford as if he's like a Terrence and Phillip character from South Park, as a Canadian that he is,
of course,
and he's riding the moose.
Yeah.
So people could check that out you can become a patron, patreon.com/YumiCapri. There's a secret channel, by the way, it's a Patreon exclusive channel in our Discord, which not many people know about, but it is unlocked when you become a patron.
I was going to say, people find out about it very quickly because we spam things in there and they're like, wait a second, when did I become part of this channel?
Here?
Like,
heck yes.
Like Court Lalonde told us a couple days ago. He's like, what the heck is going on here?
I don't think we ever talk about it. I don't think it's in there as like a benefit, but we don't really ever. That's a perk that we could chat about.
Yeah, I mean it's a secret. It's on the Patreon website. We do mention
it's like the Stonecutters.
Yes, exactly. You're part of a secret club with other Patreon.
Do you know that one?
Well, of course, it's the
Simpsons.
Simpsons.
Stonecutters? Oh, thank God. I
mean, I have a Simpsons arcade machine right there, Sean.
Fair enough. True enough. Yep. Okay.
Anyways, what did you play this week, Sean? Did you play anything?
I didn't play it. I played Halo. Playing some other stuff on, like, Switch has really captured my attention. Triangle Strategy as a demo, Ryan Turford. I'm right over there.
Yep.
And then, I'm playing some things to review pretty soon, which is very cool. People can expect things.
Yeah.
And
I mean, to be fair, you can at least
starts.
mention a couple things, but yeah, I know there's a lot of stuff we can't really talk about yet. So there's that too. But I know
I want to say, like, I want to avoid saying that from now on. Even as I say, I'm like, I sound so shitty when I say that. That sucks. I can't really, I don't know, but I need to tell people, like, I am playing things. So I want to acknowledge that sounds kind of douchey.
Yeah. You
like,
want to acknowledge though
that I can't talk about.
Because here's the thing. You want to talk about games and people like, you want the listeners to know that you're at least playing games still.
I guess. And
so I can understand
does
why
that really even matter?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Pokemon. Xbox, like, and we can talk about this too. Like, I just feel like Xbox kind of is in a bit of a dry spell right now, and certainly not going to be trying out that Crossfire X. I looked at it, I was excited about it.
We actually got a question about that later, so I'm excited to talk to you about that.
Skipped it, man. I'm on my other systems right now.
But yeah, I agree with you because besides Crossfire X, we had Dying Light, and then those games that we talked about coming to Game Pass, which were mostly older releases at the beginning of the month, and that's about it. Like for the rest of the month until Elden Ring comes out, I guess next week. I think that's really it for Xbox for this month. So most of the other games are coming out on other consoles.
GameInformer.com/2022 is my list that I use, Ryan, for upcoming games, and people should bookmark it. Damn, I was jealous. I was talking to Donnie Reese from PSVG on another Patreon exclusive audio podcast people get at the $3 tier and up, and we were talking all about Dying Light 2, and I'm watching that very, very closely, my friend.
Yeah.
Really want to get that one.
Whereas for me, I'm like, I don't like the Dark Souls games, and I don't like Dying Light, so I'm like, what new games am I buying on Xbox this month, right? So
how dare you not just buy anything just because it comes out, Ryan?
That's true. I mean, but a lot of the games I'm interested this month in particular are on other consoles, like River City Girls Zero, which is only on Switch this month. Yeah. It's coming to Xbox. It's just not out on Xbox right now, or stuff like like Horizon and stuff like that. Like that's kind of more my alley.
I saw great reviews for Total War Warhammer 3, which I don't think that we picked for our fantasy critic draft, and that's a shame because that game I think somewhere around like 89 or something on Open Critic.
We just don't know enough about new modern strategy games to be able to weigh in on a lot of them. I think that's just how it works into things. Especially
just play StarCraft forever.
Well, I mean, my laptop is kind of old, so it can't really run most modern real-time strategy games. So I just don't even bother looking into them at this point. But yeah. As for me, Sean,
there really isn't anything
on this week. And for a little while now, I talked about it with you off air, but I'm gonna mention this because we actually had a question about this, I think about a month ago, asking about how we deal with kind of like gaming burnout and if that ever kind of happens to us where we get hit like a gaming dry spell. And admittedly, for the first time in what seems like it's been years, like I've really hit like a personal gaming slump over the last couple of weeks. Like it's been very hard to get into anything and play for more than 10 minutes. And it's not that I've fallen out of love with games or anything like that. Please, that's not what that is. But it's just like, it's almost like a mental thing where it's like, I start playing a game for 10 minutes and I immediately either get frustrated or I just want to put it down and not play it anymore. So at this point, I'm not really playing anything and I don't really know how long that's going to last. I feel like it just is going to take like the right type of game, I think, to kind of pull me out of it. That's usually kind of how, whenever these type of situations happen with me, that's kind of how I usually get out of it, especially because I've got a lot going on right now in my personal life outside of games and outside the podcast. So I imagine that's going to happen down the road. But until then, I'm playing the Funimation app on my Xbox, Sean. I'm watching some anime. I'm watching some movies. That's pretty much what's been occupying my time lately. So no games really to report on other than, of course, playing 10 minutes of CyberPunk. But we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Oh, snap. Well, I mean, it's best not to force it. Sometimes it's like, if I just play something, I can get through this. That never works. Just take some time away, the right game. And then, you know what? The thing is that when that next game does come along, like you're just going to have so much enjoyment that it is worth to see the other things that are going on in life. And gaming is nothing to stress about.
Well, especially like it comes at a perfect time in a lot of ways, even though there's a lot of games on other platforms. It's like a dry spell for Xbox games at this point. So it's like, in a way, it almost is. It's better it's happening now versus when in the fall when I imagine we get a lot of Xbox releases. So
right, yeah. You don't want to play. You don't want to play Crossfire X, Ryan. You don't want to buy the part of the game, but some of it comes out on Game Pass. But maybe sometimes they change that. Like, what the heck is going on with this game, man?
It's something. All right.
Botched.
Let's slam the brakes on this conversation. It's time for some breaking news. And we got so much news to get to this week, even though there's not actually a ton of news. I just want to...
I literally just realized on the notes, it says Ryan is playing the Funimation app. Like that's actually in the notes. I love it.
I mean, there was a time, I think late last year where I put down 1 week that I was playing the Blu-ray player app, Sean. So
amazing.
I mean, it's never stopped me before from doing something.
Yeah, I played Netflix a little bit.
Yeah. In fact,
Watch
actually, fun fact before we sidetracking a little bit, this is actually non-Xbox related, but yesterday a lot of people's Wii U and 3DS stats came out, and most of the people's like app on those consoles were the Netflix app, which was hilarious because it counted the time.
Don't trust those stats, man. I swear. Like everybody, there's a couple people and confirming my thoughts on it. It's like, it felt like I played this more. And I also don't know, like, at what point did like the account system even become available? Like and don't trust Nintendo stats. Let's be honest.
Well, they actually outlined it on the website. The stats were actually pulled between like sometime at the end of 2017 until the middle of 2020. So it's they're not even like super
2017. Who's playing any 3D? 2017, that was a Switch.
I played the 3DS like a month ago, Sean.
Oh, that makes way more sense because I was like, where is Mario Kart? Like that had to be the one.
I played my Wii U like 2 months ago when we were doing the Advance Wars episode. I wanted to play the Advance Wars games. They're on Wii U for $5. So
dude, my number one game was Animal Crossing, followed by Fire Emblem Birthright, I think, and then Bravely Default. So there you go.
Nintendo apparently lost my 3DS stats. I don't have any. It just shows up as no stats to pull. But my top Wii U game was Call of Duty Black Ops 2.
Come on, Ryan. That's amazing.
Actually, I
remember what my top one was. Tokyo Mirage Sessions was in there for Wii U.
Yeah.
I think that was number 3 for me. That's all I remember.
I mean, I remember my like ex-girlfriend playing Call of Duty Black Ops 2 a whole lot, and it's like over 100 hours in that game.
Goodness gracious on Wii U.
Yeah.
Okay, well, welcome to the Nintendo Drive. Just like in the town, we'll switch vehicles, jump on into the Xbox car.
All right. So first up, let's talk about Game Pass games because Game Pass games are always exciting, Sean.
Yeah.
So the following games are coming to Xbox games now. Note when they initially tweeted this, they mentioned Lawnmower Simulator was coming on the 17th, but that actually has been delayed to an unknown release date. So
Boo,
we don't know when
that was the
coming.
one I was excited about.
I know that's why I wanted to bring it up now, so you're not disappointed. So
I am disappointed.
The following games are coming. Madden NFL 22 is out today, as well as Total War Warhammer 3. Out on PC today. It's basically like a day one release, which is really interesting to see. And then on February 24th, we are getting Galactic Civilizations 3 on PC. And then Super Mega Baseball 3 on the same day as well. And then Alice Madness Returns comes to PC Game Pass on February 28th. So those are the Game Pass releases we've got for the month. But then the following games are leaving Game Pass on the 28th. Hypno Space Outlaw, Killer Queen Black, Stealth Inc. 2, and Toho Luna Nights, which I will throw out there. If you've never played Toho Luna Nights and you like Metroidvania games, you check that one out because it's actually really fun. I talked about that because it was a day and date release on Xbox and on Game Pass, I think in 2020. I talked about it on the show back then, but I really like that game. So definitely check that one out if you like Metroidvanias. But there you go. Those are all
kind of meh on both these lists. We're kind of like, okay, that is a list of video games.
Also, I called it because like I think I talked about it like a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, that I figured Madden was coming up on Game Pass because of course the Super Bowl is over.
Super Bowl. Yep.
Yeah. So there you go. So definitely check out that list of games. I mean, also that's to add on because you have to remember how many games we had this month too. I think we had like 10 or 12 total Game Pass games this month. So it's actually been a pretty good month for Game Pass. But
where's CyberPunk, Ryan? Why not CyberPunk?
Not here. You got the little tease yesterday, Sean, because it said there, for a time there was the cloud gaming streaming option with Game Pass attached to CyberPunk, and then it went away. It was a glitch. Yeah.
What the heck was that about? How does that glitch happen?
I mean, Mr. Badbit almost owed you $50 retroactive, Sean.
And not even really. And of course, the bet being, I thought CyberPunk back before it even was released the first time. I thought it was coming into Game Pass. Lost $50 on that, and I was like, well, maybe when they actually finish the game, then it'll come to Game Pass. So I don't know if this patch that they've released, this update with all of it. There's a ton to go through, really.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's like whatever happened to their roadmap. I thought everything was delayed, and all of a sudden they just surprised us with like, here it is. Like Court Lalonde was the first one I knew to actually find it.
Yeah. I mean, well, the icon just changed on Xbox. It was just there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Just out of nowhere. I guess he was installing CyberPunk for some reason outside of the next gen patch. I don't know.
Just happenstance.
I don't claim to know what Court Lalonde does in his free time, Sean. Over on the Xbox A over there. We don't really think about that stuff. All right. Next news story. The Halo TV series isn't out yet, but it's already been renewed for a second season ahead of its Paramount Plus release, which is on March 24th. So there's your 1 month reminder. We're like a month away from the Halo TV show happening. I also wanted to throw this in here as well because they've actually released since we've talked about it last time. They've released a couple trailers for the Halo TV show. Sean, have you checked out any of the trailers for the
I
show
didn't
yet?
know that. No, I didn't even know that.
Oh, so they actually had like a 30-second spot during the Super Bowl, and then they had like a full 2-minute trailer a few weeks ago. So
Snap.
Look
at that.
It looks pretty
Dollars
cool.
putting into this thing. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it looks pretty faithful to the franchise, other than the fact that Cortana's not blue. She looks like a normal human being, just small.
How dare they?
And then, of course, Steve Downs is not playing Master Chief. It's someone else who's voicing Master Chief. But Jen Taylor, who voices Cortana in the games, is actually voicing Cortana in the TV series, which is cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
I think this show looks awesome. As someone who likes kind of the Halo lore and stuff like that, I'm actually really excited to watch this on Paramount Plus. So Sean, even though you haven't seen anything, what do you think about this? Are you excited to check out the Halo TV series? Do you have
They need to win me
any
over.
type of expectations at all?
No, well, I don't know if this is better or I don't know what this makes me, but my expectations are in the basement, to be honest with you. They're right here with me. Which means that they really can surprise me. Like they really can kind of blow me away with this, but I don't know. It's this Halo something on TV has been a thing forever. And so I don't know if that bodes well or not for this sort of thing. Like, has this been in development hell for, or the equivalent to on TV? Like, and what they finally give us is not good. Now, with that said, this renewal for a second season bodes well. Somebody is seeing something that they already want to go ahead with this next one. I don't know if it's just like blind faith and a ton of dollars in Microsoft's bank that they just go ahead and do this. So I don't know how much to read into it, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm very curious, and I just need to kind of work out how I'm even going to watch it, because I need to figure that whole thing out.
I was
It's
going
not
to say
on Netflix, which I
Paramount
have.
Plus is like harder to get here in Canada, especially because like we can subscribe to it, sure, but there's not a lot of devices here in Canada that have apps
is
that
that
support
it?
Paramount Plus. Like Xbox had an app for a while, and then it actually got removed from the store.
You've got to be kidding me. That's got to be day one, dude. Like if you're going to watch Halo, give me the Paramount app. Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's why I'm hoping that this probably means maybe the Paramount app is coming back to Xbox. Whereas it's not that you can't watch Paramount Plus on PlayStation or any of the other consoles, or like you basically need like an Amazon Fire Stick, I think, is like one of the only devices that supports it in Canada right now, or watch on your phone or your browser kind of thing, which is not the way I want to watch the Halo TV series, Sean. I'm just going to throw it out there.
No kidding. Well, I'm looking at it right now. You can stream it using Apple TV, Roku, Android TV, Android, iPhone, iPad, Chromecast, or Fire TV.
Right.
So I have a Chromecast. So at least I've got that. I'm good.
I have none of those devices, so I don't know how I'm going to watch this. But
None of those?
No.
None.
Well, I
don't
mean, I
have
have
an
a phone,
iPhone.
I guess, but I don't have but I'm not going to watch it on my phone, Sean. Let's call a spade a spade. But I'm excited to check it out, and I will definitely be watching it. I'm not even a huge TV person, but I will watch the Halo TV series, hoping it's good.
You watch it on your computer.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
go to the website, paramountplus.ca.
And
or
with this, like,
.com/CA.
my hopes are simple. As long as it's better than Halo Nightfall, I think we're moving in the right direction, because Halo Nightfall was that series that Ridley Scott did. That was like a mini series, and it was about Locke, and it was not very good. So
Man, he should have crushed that too. What a talent. $5.99 per month Canadian. You can cancel anytime or join now and get 7 days for free, Ryan. So I will be timing that very carefully, my friend.
yeah, you may as well get your
I've got it all
use your
sorted
7
out.
days. It's happening.
Okay.
All right. Next up, you alluded to it already, Sean, but Cyberpunk 2077's Xbox Series X and X patch are out right now. It's patch 1.5. Additionally, there will be now a 5-hour demo for the game that's available. If you're interested in checking out the game. Additionally, the game is on sale right now for $29.99. So if you like it, it's probably not going to be that cheap for a while again, because when CD Projekt
Now it works.
moves things over like this, they're probably not going to put it on sale again for a while. So definitely check that out. Also, I think the trial is only available until like the middle of March. So if you're interested in trying it out, good to try it out as quickly as you can and kind of go for there. And I think progress carries over because it's more of a free trial and less of a demo. But Sean, what do you think about this news that Cyberpunk is officially back, and people on Twitter seem to be coming around on this game again?
I know. I wanted to. Well, what I'm going to do here, Ryan, is I'm going to read a question that I submitted to the trophy room.
Okay.
With Mr. Badminton, Mr. K-Step, and they're actually having Luke Lohr over there as well. So I'm going to read you the question I sent to them, and maybe this can kind of give us the discussion. I said, "Hi guys, first time, long time. How do you feel about Cyberpunk 2077 getting a surprise update? A, would it have been better to announce or promote it ahead of time? B, or number 2, why February? And number 3, does supporting the game now feel weird given its rough and deceptive launch? So let's start with the first one. Like, what would it have been better to promote this ahead of time? Like, this was kind of a surprise, and I'm not sure I get it, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference is because it's a patch that's going for the game. Like, I think they just wanted to push the patch whenever it was ready, kind of thing, and just go from there. Definitely, I think they should have marketed ahead of time a little bit more. Like they had this, they had this big live stream planned, and it wasn't supposed to leak out early. It just happened to leak out early. But there was supposed to be a live stream yesterday where they announced this, and they were actually promoting it a lot on Twitter. So they did put in some promotion, and they wanted to make it a big deal. It just the way it leaked out made it a less of a big deal than it probably would have been. But I just seems
to like ignore the roadmap that they had out for us. Like they said there was going to be certain milestones by certain dates, and it's like, well, now that's just completely gone. Like not only did they completely miss all those things, now they're not revising it, and I don't know. That's just it seems like a bit of a mess to me from my perspective.
I mean, in the wise words of Ryan Turford, Sean, it could be anything at this point.
Could be anything. Okay, well then, so there's that part. Then, why February? Like this is one of the busiest, craziest months in video game history. I think we're going to be looking at this in years down the road going like, holy, remember February 2022? Maybe not on Xbox land, but kind of everywhere else. Why now, man? Why would they can choose their destiny? They can maybe not have this come out right before Destiny. Why February 2022? Is this a mistake?
So here's the thing, Sean. I've actually been going over our calendar of releases, and I actually think March actually might be a busier month than February.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
as far as bigger games,
March.
And again, mostly not on Xbox, but again, just the Switch releases alone in March are kind of ridiculous. So, as to your question, I think a lot of it just comes down to maybe they felt this window was better than March, or releasing it over the summer. And I'm just going to throw it out there, like to kind of, because they're doing this kind of as a service to the fans. If the patch is ready in February, why would they hold that for 2 or 3 months, right?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, because I think at that point, since they're doing this for the fans, they may as well get it to them whenever it's ready, kind of thing, and just
that's
have
fair.
it launch day and date. And I think that had a lot to do with this decision. I think it's like it maybe would feel weirder that like holding this back a little bit. I mean, on Xbox, it's different than PlayStation, because PlayStation, they have to go through certification again, because it has to be certified as a PlayStation 5 release instead of just an upgrade to the version that already exists. So they basically have to push a new version of the game that's completely different. So maybe from that regards, like maybe you could even make an argument that, hey, the Xbox patch just releases whenever, and then the PlayStation 5 version comes out at a suitable time when they've got maybe a physical version ready to go, a PS5 physical version or something like that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it as like an actual release, and then maybe they just don't, and maybe nobody else does. But I look at this as going like, okay, no, for real, this is the game that really should have launched back in November 2020. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
And maybe Ryan, I was kind of giggling there for a second, because I'm like, maybe they watched the Nintendo Direct and were like, shit, just drop it now. Just get out, get out of the way. We see what Nintendo's up to. Let's just do it now.
Yeah. Well, especially like there's no other open world games this month, right, Sean? With Dying Light and Horizon and stuff like that. So it's just I think
Destiny,
the way
Elden Ring.
I think they looked at it more as though it was a patch rather than a release of a new game. And I think that's the way they evaluated. But that's just what I think. But what do you think?
Well, no, I'm kind of with you. I think we've kind of chatted about that. My third question was, do you feel weird supporting it? Like, do you want to support it? Does it feel weird to go like, yeah, we saw all the kind of, like, I would say how they released it was kind of gross and nasty, deceptive. Like even going back to, some people might forget even the review process, like only a certain version of the game was going out. Like you can only talk about certain things like that. Really, when I talk about reviews now, I think back to that and go like, what are we doing by participating in this when there's certain things that you can say, you can't say, and like there's so many rules when you're going to review a game. Like we have to be very careful about that sort of thing, and CyberPunk is the case study for that. So now that they've fixed it, so to speak, and maybe the jury is still out on that, I'll watch a Digital Foundry thing on that. Does it feel weird to like just celebrate it? Like, thank you, we have it. Like, I think this still has, I don't know, I feel like there's still a bad taste in my mouth from CyberPunk at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's a little bit there. Again, I don't it was weird being on Twitter yesterday, Sean, and seeing just so many people kind of forgetting about that, or just immediately being like, oh, I'm so excited to play CyberPunk finally.
Right.
Whereas for me, like, I mean, I didn't personally forget. I mean, that's why, like, when I saw the game was $10, I'm like, you know what? I enjoyed the game when I played it. And I know I'll want to go back to it at some point. So I will pay $10 for this. But but I mean, how much am I really supporting them by paying them $10 is kind of the way I looked at it. Whereas a lot of people are willing to looking to spend a lot of money going back to this. So, or just excited about that. Whereas I'm glad that they decided to put in the work to do this.
Of course.
And you have to at least, I feel like you have to reward them at least a little bit or give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt for at least trying, for showing the effort. Because they could have very easily just been dropped it like a rock and said, you know what? We're done. But just walk away.
Because it sold very well. They definitely could have. This was a reputational thing. And I don't know if it's a fair comparison or not, but it's actually kind of funny that No Man's Sky dropped a gigantic update here. And of course, we all remember how that game launched and the work that team has put into it to take it to a completely new level. And that's the redemption story that we all celebrate. I think what the thing that we're stuck with now is we just don't want this to happen all the time. We know that it was possible, and we do celebrate what happened with No Man's Sky. That's great, but it's don't want that now. Crossfire is out, and they will probably have some sort of roadmap to make that game actually a game. So it's it just not. I don't know that any two releases are ever going to be equal, but for whatever reason, I just feel a little bit differently about CyberPunk than I do about No Man's Sky. Maybe it's the underdog story about No Man's Sky that it was a small team and just the vast improvement that they showed.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen enough from CyberPunk. This is all to say, I'm very intrigued. I'm very intrigued to try this for myself and see what it's all about. I mean, I was there at E3 when Keanu Reeves yelled at the dude and said he was breathtaking. I almost fell over because I was just totally beside myself. Tons of hype for this game. Hard to ignore that, but I'd like that we can maybe have a bit of a rounded conversation about this.
Oh, absolutely. And to your point, what this has changed not so much as how I feel currently about CyberPunk. It's how I feel about what's going to happen next for CD Projekt Red, what their next game is going to be. I'm definitely not buying that game day one. Not like Cyberpunk. So I'm not going to pre-order it or anything like that. I'm going to wait on it, regardless of how good people say it is at this point.
Dude, this is the thing. And you look at even a Dying Light, which is definitely, it's a far cry from, pardon the pun, it's not Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
But even that definitely needed a little bit of work. And it's this notion of playing a game on day one. I'm sure we'll be watching Destiny very closely as well, if you can even play it on day one. This day one experience for the most part kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I don't want to paint it all with a broad brush, but it's kind of, I wouldn't blame somebody for thinking that if they just avoided day one.
Well, we even saw it with stuff like the Life is Strange collection that just came out. There were all kinds of problems with it. It was barely playable the day that it launched, earlier this month. So
it's a trend. It's definitely a trend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But and yet still, we can call out all these problems and conflicts. And I still kind of want to play Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm busy now, man. That was my point about why February. I'm busy. I don't know when or if I'm actually going to get to it, but we'll see.
You're tapped out, Sean, as the kids would say. And also, I'm just going to throw it out there.
Catching Pokemon.
I mentioned earlier that I played it for, maybe 15, 20 minutes before I put the game down. And I already saw a bug with the game where Jackie, who's one of your earlier party members at the beginning of the game, he just decided to walk through a wall. He thought, hey, we need to get out of this room. The best thing was he walked through this filing cabinet and these papers just started flying everywhere. And then he walked through this locker and then just kept walking through the wall. So it's
why go around it, man?
Yeah,
the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So
I have a video of it on my Xbox because I just thought it was too priceless. But my first 15 minutes back in the redemption arc or Cyberpunk, you got characters just walking through walls again. So
I mean, I'm curious about all the ways that this open world even works. Does the traffic work? We saw a bunch of stuff with that, and what happens when you pull out a gun and how do people react? And it's just, man, that game was in really, really rough shape. Just absolutely no business to be released. So yeah, I don't know. Pretty conflicted. I feel like I should play Dying Light 2. I feel like I should play Destiny. I feel like I should be looking forward to other things. Yeah. But here we are. Cyberpunk.
Yep. And then last news story, Capcom has put up a mysterious timer on their website that is set to expire on Sunday, February 20th at 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. I think this could be one of two things. It could either be an announcement of Resident Evil 4 Remake or Street Fighter 6. Jeff Grubb over at GamesBeat says he thinks it's going to be Street Fighter 6.
What does he know?
Sean, let's get predictions in now. Because we talked about we want to do more predictions whenever stuff like this comes up. What are you predicting this countdown timer is for?
Oh my gosh, man. Well, I joke about Jeff Grubb, of course. He probably knows a little something, but to me, I'm staring at it right now. This looks like Resident Evil font. It's a dark background and kind of like a glowy kind of light. This to me screams Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. And it would also, I think, follow the timeline that we've been expecting these remakes to kind of happen. Mm-hmm. But what do you think? I think I'm going to lock in my answer. Is this Resident Evil? Do you want me to say specifically what Resident Evil kind of announcement we're getting?
We make up the rules, Sean. There's no cops here.
I mean, you can give me points though. Like this is the other side. We do points on our predictions.
Yeah.
So if I say it's just Resident Evil, like I don't know how that hits you.
Yeah. I mean, I would give, if you were just to say Resident Evil, Sean,
yeah,
I would give you a 6 for that.
Yeah, it's like a coin flip, really.
Yeah, because
between Resident Evil
it's adventurous
and
enough to say it's Resident Evil, but you're not being specific about it. You're being kind of gray about this.
Okay, so then what if I said Resident Evil 4 remake?
Then I'd probably give you a 7 or an 8.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm going to go for. That's my prediction.
Because
okay, I'll take it.
So then I have to be contrarian to you, Sean. If we both say the same thing, then obviously it would be boring for the prediction.
Paradox.
So
that's right.
I'm actually going to side with my bro Jeff Grubb on this one. I'm going to say Street Fighter 6.
Okay. Oh, tell me more then about this. Is this going to continue to be a PlayStation exclusive? Is it like the last Street Fighter game?
I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be an exclusive. It just depends on how much money Sony is willing to throw at Street Fighter, I guess, because you have to remember, like, that game, Street Fighter 5 wouldn't exist if Sony just didn't actually give Capcom money to make it, essentially. So
I don't buy that for a second, by the way.
That's what the Capcom people said, Sean.
I don't care. Man, I'm not eating that. It's Street Fighter. It's like one of their most important franchises. And like, I guess we need a loan from somebody to make sure this thing still exists. No, you find a way for Street Fighter. Street Fighter finds a way.
You're just saying life finds a way, Sean. So
yeah, but for Street Fighter.
But we're Street Fighter. So yeah, I personally think that this Street Fighter game, you know what? I'm going to go on the record and say it does come to Xbox. I think it will be a multi-platform game.
Coming to Game Pass.
Well, I'm not bold enough to say that. In fact, I'm actually fairly certain if it is Street Fighter, it won't be coming to Game Pass, John. So I'm going to lock in my
exclusively to arcades.
I'm going to lock in my answer. Street Fighter 6. Okay. It's coming to Xbox, and it's coming this summer.
Oh, snap. Okay, that's pretty specific. I'll match you. I think that's pretty... if you gave me a 7, I'll give you an 8, because you added a couple extra layers of specificity on that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, because likewise, I have to get everything right in order for that to work. So...
That's right.
And worst case scenario, we're both wrong, Sean. And it's, Mega Man Battle Network Collection or something like that to make Matt Sawinski happy, and then just make us sad. So there you go.
Yeah. What if it's like a Capcom, like Ubisoft Plus? Like what if they do like a Capcom subscription service? Plus. Is actually what? Yeah.
What if it's secretly a countdown timer to the news that Sony has bought Capcom, Sean?
That's kind of the thought had run through my mind, but I don't know if that's Capcom's story to tell.
It's also weird that would be like a countdown clock too. But I saw so many people on Twitter kind of like hypothesizing that it was like a countdown clock to announce that Xbox had bought Capcom, that I had to throw that in there because it's just, no, they would never do a countdown clock for something like that.
Sorry, guys.
That's real dumb.
Pretty silly. All
right, let's let some of our friends into the car with us, Sean. It is time for the carpool. Folks, if you would like to have your question read on the carpool, you can follow us on Twitter at @UniCaprice. We put up a question post, usually the morning of, usually Wednesday morning when we record. So leave us your question there. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, you can leave your question in the comments of this video and we'll answer it on the next show. Or if you join us on the Discord, the Amiga Discord, it's free to join. Links in the show notes. Leave a question there in the Xbox Drive section. Just make sure to tag Sean or I in there so we know that it's a question for the show, just like Mike at BlazeKnight0923 did. And he asked the question, what do you guys think about the free play program that Xbox has on the weekends? I don't think I've ever heard you guys talk about this perk at all. And he just wants to know our thoughts on it, if we've really used it. So, Sean, have you ever really played any of the free trial games that Xbox does like every weekend?
Yeah, no, I don't think that I have, but it's a good point by Mike, because these games are probably more notable than the games with gold ones, actually. So it's a weird mix. I think we find ourselves in terms of like what we cover is, for the most part, things that like interest us personally, but also happen to be news. But in some cases, we do cover things I'd say that neither of us really have an attachment to. And this is one that kind of falls further to, like, I kind of have most of the games that come up on these things, and or I'm busy playing something else, and it actually takes a lot for to pull me away from something I'm already actively doing with kind of a surprise, like, oh, here's your weekend game. So personally, I'm not really in a situation that this really applies to, but I do look at this and go, I think back to like the old days where we would rent a game and you would have a game over the weekend. And this seems to kind of check that same box, but I haven't been looking for that box in a long time.
Makes sense. And yeah, and I will say the reason we usually don't talk about these on the show, Mike, just for full transparency, is a lot of times, like if we had the news before we recorded, I would actually probably put it in some of the shows if there was like an interesting game to talk about it. But a lot of times what happens with these is that they'll get announced on Thursday or sometimes Friday morning. And that's like after we've recorded, and obviously they announce them like the week of. So
that's a good point.
Since we don't have a lot of these ahead of time, there's no way we can really talk about it on the show a lot of times. There's the odd case where that happens, but for the most part, that's not the case. And yeah, kind of, you actually hit the nail right on the head, Sean. A lot of times the games that are on there are older games I already have, or maybe you've already played, or games that I just have no interest in. So I'm not going to download, like spend the time to download the free trial. But I will say, I did actually, oddly enough, for the first time in like 2 or 3 years, I actually took advantage of this service, Sean, because Valkyria Revolution was on one of the games this weekend, over the weekend, which is like an action RPG spin-off game in the Valkyria Chronicles series, which is a series I really like. But it's a game I never played because it got like really bad reviews when it came out. But it was on sale over the weekend for I think like $8 Canadian. So I was like, okay,
you gotta do that.
It's $8, but since there's a free download for the game and you can play it all weekend, why don't I at least download it and try it and see if this is interested in something I'm interested in paying $8 for. So I downloaded it, played it for 10 minutes, kind of going back to what I talked about earlier of, just not me being into games. And I was like, nope, this is not for me. It's closer to something like a Muso, and I just don't like those kinds of games. So I ended up just deleting it and not picking it up for $8, Sean. I didn't do it.
Well, shout out to on this note, shout out to to Chorus has a demo. This is a game that I've been watching for a long time. The demo seemed to get some attention on Twitter, and I don't know if we've ever really covered like there's a new demo out, but Chorus on Xbox, it's available now. You guys can get that. It's $40 to buy, but I'm going to be checking out that demo, my friend.
That's a good call. I think I saw that news like really late last night, and I totally forgot to just add it to the doc.
No, that's okay. I was just looking to see like what was the last set of free games, and then Chorus popped up here on Major Nelson. So shout out to that.
Nice. All right. Next up, Mike, aka Zero Skill at Zero Skill on Twitter, asked the question. He's got kind of a long question, so here we go. How would you feel if a demo was the training intro and a dream sequence that wouldn't affect the story? That way, when a game releases, you can immediately jump into the story without having the cumbersome tutorial. Would this make you try a demo first before playing the full game? Personally, I can't stand a tutorial section that arbitrarily tries to shoehorn the story in. You've woken up from a coma and you can't remember the basic functions. Do you remember how to move your head? Why don't you try that now? And I hate when it takes the controls away from you. So Sean, would you be more inclined to try a demo if it was like a made up section, like almost like a dream sequence, rather than it was like cut out from the game?
There's a lot here. I think if you're going to separate it out from the game, I don't know if demo is the answer, like just an actual separate tutorial is something to keep in mind. I think I always kind of giggle a little bit too. I think there's a very specific example that comes to mind with like Halo. It's like, oh, you just woken up from a long time out in space. Like, can you move your head? Or I actually like shout out to like Titanfall, where it's like, oh, you're a new pilot. Like you got to pull this lever up at top so you can look up there to go grab it. I don't mind. It doesn't bother me nearly as much as Mike. I don't think in a way where I would like try to get it the hell out of there. But yeah, tutorials and just the way gamers are taught to play games, I think is fascinating. I think it just speaks to overall game design. If it's done the way that it is now and it's still rubbing people the wrong way, then you haven't quite nailed it, And of course, a lot of people look to Super Mario in that first level. It's like that's everything you need to know. It's the game itself. You got to jump or you're going to die. And this is the question marks and this is how this works and all these things. So, I don't know. I don't know exactly what the answer is. Like I said, it doesn't really bother me too much when it says look up and make sure that all works. That's okay. My biggest thing is like for games like anything JRPG or adjacent to that, it's like I'm getting screens of text for the first 15 hours of the damn game, and I'm like, I can't even remember when I get onto the next screen. I can't remember what the previous page of text taught me. So I don't know what the right answer is. Probably not a demo.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Mike, I think that even if they did this with demos, they would still include the tutorial in the game. because they can't just assume that everyone who's going to pick up the game who needs maybe a tutorial at the beginning is going to have played the demo first. Because if anything, I think probably downloads for game demos are probably much smaller than the actual number of people who actually buy the game. In like 99% of cases, right? So I don't think they'd ever intentionally remove the tutorial from the game itself, but more than that, to your point, what I would love to see more, and this is something that I noticed when booting up CyberPunk yesterday, was that CyberPunk's tutorial is completely optional, and they do this like VR world thing with the tutorial with that game if you decide to do it, but you can choose not to. And I would like to see more games do that. Take that approach instead, where they just give you a choice of do you want to do the tutorial, yes or no, kind of thing. And then if you don't know how to do things, it's on you, the player, at that point. At that point, give the player more agency, I think, is what I would like to see. And as far as game demos, what I personally prefer is actually what Square Enix is doing with their game demos with Triangle Strategy, where I like it to be the beginning of the game, and then your save carries over to the full game, kind of thing. Like that's the type of demo that's like perfect for me, regardless of the game genre. Like that's what I personally like to see from game demos. So I'd like to see more of that with other games and genres.
Yeah, and in Xbox land, like when you buy the game, then any of the trophies that you would have achieved in the first couple hours in the demo, they automatically unlock because you've already played that. Like to me, that is the gold standard. Anything else is kind of weird at this point. I don't want to replay anything, man. Yeah,
that was what was so awesome about the Dragon Quest 11 demo, because that demo was the first like 10 hours of the game, and your save carried over, and all your achievements unlocked when you booted up the game. So it's like, it was awesome. It was one of the best demos on Xbox. So there you go. Next up, Dano on the Discord asks us to, throw ourselves into a scenario. He asks, you've spontaneously won a random drawing for whichever gaming platforms that you'd like, where they will upgrade your gamer rig and space to fit these new devices. You get 5 minutes to create a wish list. What price do you think you could rack up for your nerd cave? Sean, if you were given 5 minutes to basically come up with a list of every single gaming device and addition you want to your gaming cave, how big would the dollar amount be?
Oh, it'd be a massive. What I would actually need, Ryan, is something I was talking to Donnie about. I need some sort of like zero gravity chair. I don't want to feel my body against a chair. I don't want my butt to get sore ever. I just want to kind of be floating there playing. I would actually need my home theater back. My actual surround sound system would be amazing. I also need it to be a little bit more easy to, when I fire up a system, that is just to the right input, which I think might just be an HDMI setting on my TV as I talk this through. Yeah, I think clothing is hugely important to this as well. I would need the most comfortable clothing. I got a closet of my gaming clothing as well. But I don't know, man. I don't even know if I'm answering this question correctly. Where are you at with it?
I mean, yeah, it would be mostly, we'd have to know off the top of our heads basically what we would want and have to jot down a giant list. So for me personally,
it's just upgrading your space.
Yeah, or adding new consoles and stuff like that. Whereas for me, I imagine that that's going to be like a $1 to $2 million bill for the person who's doing this. Like, I would be like, yes, here are all the game consoles I need, including all the rare and expensive ones, including all the Amiga CD32 games, and which some of those games are like in the thousands of dollars, or new chairs, all that stuff that you talked about as well, new TV, all that good stuff. A RetroTink 5X in particular would be a big addition. So yeah. I mean, there you go, Dano. Those are answers. Quite a lot of money. You'd be very, very hard pressed to satisfy this. And then the last question comes to us from Court Lalonde asking, Crossfire X was thought to be this huge get for Game Pass. Does the release of this game bode with very bad reviews change how Xbox decides which games go into Game Pass? So, I mean, ultimately, I think this was a big get. But I think there's a reason why Microsoft stopped talking about it for a while, or we stopped seeing it as part of, Microsoft showcases.
Sure did.
Game Pass reels and stuff like that. And I think it's just because I had a feeling, I think they knew that the game was not going to turn out to be good. And I mean, you can't win them all with Game Pass stuff. You make these deals ahead of time before you even know whether or not the game is going to come together. So if you're Microsoft, you just kind of hope that they're going to turn out well, and you hope they're going to be awesome. But Sean, what do you think about Court's question?
They do have a responsibility, I would say, to ensure that. I agree with you, everything that you just said. Like when they cast their net out this wide to try and get as many games as humanly possible into the service, then yeah, you're going to end up with a couple duds, but you can only really pass that off for so long, because I think like gamers are very picky, man. We're a finicky group, and we will cast judgment very fast that, you know, we have a game like this, I guess the games suck on Game Pass is kind of how narratives start. And that really is terrible, but that's just the reality, unfortunately. But I don't know what the right answer is, other than to say that there are examples of, like, say, Nintendo has a very draconian kind of approach to it, especially back in the day, like this quality seal. Where is that, and how do they ensure that happens? I think that as we get more and more games coming, it starts to look more and more like the video game crash before the NES. Like, there's just so many games, and the gaming space is growing, and blah, blah, blah. At what point, if Game Pass is going to be representative of video games just in general, especially if they're going after the 14 gazillion people on the planet, then yeah, it definitely needs to be representative of the quality experiences. Like, this is, I think there's going to have to be a bit of a debrief on this. How do you make sure that this doesn't happen? Because it's a blemish. Like, this is the one game we just talked about, how like there's not really a whole heck of a lot going on here this month. I don't know that at least for us personally, maybe people are stoked about Madden, Total War, and all those other things. But for us, it's like, kind of the shooter was the one, and it's important to have a good shooter experience on Xbox, and Crossfire is not it. And it's not even the quality of the game, Ryan. So that's the other thing you kind of talked about. You don't know how these games are going to turn out. Like, the rollout of it was confusing as all get out. The mix of multiplayer and campaigns that were included with it, but then not, and then they are. Like, I think that was just a mess. Yeah. So they need to tighten that up big time. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen like this type of thing from a streaming service. I mean, Netflix, for example, has Netflix exclusives all the time that they try and push, and then they end up being, sometimes really bad releases on the service. So I think this is just the type of thing that is bound to happen. And going back to your point, I think it just changes how Microsoft, like, which game changes Microsoft's perception to be like, hey, maybe we should be a little more careful of which games we push for Game Pass. Like, yeah, definitely. Because we get a lot of bad games that come to Game Pass all the time, Sean. Like, it's not bad games on Game Pass aren't necessarily a new thing. It's just it's not very often that a game that they push is the game that's bad. So, dude, I mean, this goes back a long time. It goes back to even CyberPunk. Like, which games Xbox chooses to align with, traditionally, I would say it has not been as good as PlayStation. If PlayStation aligned with like things like Batman and Star Wars in the past, or Destiny is probably a really good example of that. Yeah. And it seems to those partnerships seem to work well in terms of building expectations and branding, and like all that experience seems to work. And every time Xbox aligns with a big game over here, it's like, that's not very good. Yeah. Doesn't resonate. Yeah, they had two winners on the marketing front with the two Bandai Namco games with Scarlet Nexus and Tales of Arise. But yeah, you're right. More often than not, that's not the case. But that's still kind of niche. Like, they need like a big deal. CyberPunk should have been it. That's the other thing. It should have been like Xbox Cyberpunk Game of the Year. Like, man, what an opportunity. And yeah, just another flop, unfortunately. Yeah, this should have been like one of the easiest slam dunks in the world when you make that market. I would have expected after The Witcher 3. Like, come on. Yep. Anyways, we got to go, Sean. But before we go, Sean, let's go. You can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. And if you want to get your picture, my illustration of Ryan Turford riding a moose who happens to look a whole lot like Bullwinkle, you go to patreon.com/YumiCapri. Very nice, my friend. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. You can find us on Twitter at YumiCapris, on YouTube, youtube.com/YumiCapri, and on podcast services around the globe. So for Sean Capri, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been episode 227 of the Xbox Drive. And we out. I feel like we threw a lot of hot takes out there. I'm curious to know what other people think about it. You can go to youtube.com/YumiCapri and leave your comments below. Bomb! The Xbox Drive is fueled by patrons at patreon.com/YumiCapri. And from the bottom of my heart, I am so grateful to the more than 70 patrons who support us each and every month, with a special thanks to our Capremium producers, Dallas Ford, Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team. You can join me and the rest of the Phoenix Overdrive team at extra-life.org and raise money for the kids. And Jonathan Brown, the man behind the music on this show and the Nintendo Drive. You can download his latest album, In My Element, on Spotify and Apple Music. Our platinum producers, Robbie Bobby Miller and Trucker Sloth, and all of our gold members, Argo, Brendan Myers, Dallas Robbins, Dano, Emily O'Kelly, Foolish Fuji, Joel Brooks, Jose Jimenez, Mac Time, Marcus O'Neill, Mr. and Mrs. Nasty Boots, RJ Kern, Skinny Matt, Tony Baker, and Xavier Reyes. If you'd like to support the show, go to patreon.com/YumiCapri and choose the tier that works for you.